All right, hello and welcome everyone. Mark Pinto is my name. I am the Adult Services Director here at Phoenixville Public Library. And welcome to tonight's presentation in the Community Gardening Around the Village series of monthly events we've been hosting for the last couple of years now. It's been great. And tonight's topic is herb gardening for beginners. And we have with us here at the library Holly Cusumano. What a great name for a gardener. Holly, who is a longtime Phoenixville resident, longtime gardener, and a member of the Herb Society of America. She asks that you hold your questions until the end. That's for people in the room and those on Zoom. So Holly, with that, take it away. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mark. So I wrote this actually for a broad audience because I wasn't sure. I knew local people would be local, but not sure about people Zooming in. So I'll introduce myself. My name is Holly Cusumano, and I'm from Phoenixville here in Chester County. For the past 20 years, I've been a member of the Herb Society. As a matter of fact, yesterday I came home from the annual conference in Baton Rouge. So I'm a lousy traveler, so for me it was a big deal. I actually got an award, which was very nice. But I worked for Vanguard for almost 30 years, and I worked there during the time when we moved. I worked in marketing and communications. We moved from the paper environment to the internet, and so I credit myself with inventing the internet. But I always had other interests. I had a very demanding job, but I kept my interest in herbs active. I also love art and family history. And 3 years ago, our son and his wife had twin boys. So that was kind of a big surprise, and so the twins have kept us busy. Let me see. Down is
Forward. Yep.
So today's presentation is about 35 minutes, and this is what I'll talk about. This is my sister and me. I'm going to talk about my love of herbs, why you should grow herbs, tips for growing herbs, herbal themed gardens, using the herbs you grow, and buying herbs. So the Herb Society requires us to read this disclaimer. I'll just read the first 2 paragraphs here, but it is important because of medical advice, which I will not be giving any, but I'll still read this. The Herb Society of America is a nonprofit educational organization dedicated to promoting the knowledge and use and delight of herbs through educational programs, research, and sharing the experience of members with the community. It's the policy of the society not to advise or recommend herbs for medicinal or health use. Please consult a healthcare provider before pursuing any herbal treatments. And I'll skip the last part. So the topic of herbs is very broad, and I wondered about where to begin. I started preparing for the presentation by creating an outline, and then I went online to find a picture that went with each topic. But it seemed like a very cumbersome way to do it, so I scratched that, and instead I started with my own photos, which, because it's my own experience, it's a lot easier to describe. This picture is from the edge of our garden bed right outside our back door. The herb in the photo is winter savory, and if you're going to have a culinary herb garden, outside the back door is a great place for it because you can run out at any time while you're cooking. I like this picture. I'm an artist also, so I like this picture because of the contrast of the green plant and the rocks and then the brick edging. But it's kind of funny, I'm known for being very tidy, and I wash my rocks every spring. And I always think I'm the only person in Pennsylvania to wash her rocks. So where to begin, really? Any hobby or deep interest, I think, begins with an inspiration. And this is a picture of my mom. Her name was Lucy Reinhardt. And she was very interested in herbs and had said to me more than once that she thought a hobby of herbs was a wonderful pursuit because you can do folklore, you can do the aesthetics of the garden, you could do the medicinal aspect, the culinary aspect, and so there's an awful lot. It's just very broad. It can be a lifelong interest, as it is for me. The funny part about this picture, on a personal point, is my mom had all these facets, and so here she looks quite innocent and sweet and lovely, and she's actually holding a book of herbs. But she also had a crazy, zany side, so there was more to her than just that picture. So I have to lick my fingers because my paper is very smooth. So an interest in herbs, I think, is great for an introverted person or a person like me who values really the friendships as much as the education. And it's a great excuse to travel, to meet people. And as I mentioned before we started, I'm going on a garden tour to the Cotswolds in England in June. It's really a bucket list kind of trip for me. So I'm pretty excited, except for the flying part and the not being home part. Those are difficult. So now this seems like the wrong page, but I've read that in the brain, memory is stored next door to scent. And that's why you might not remember why you walked into the living room, but you can recall gardens that you visited, I think, the scents and the flavors that you experienced there. And for me, I can recall a crunchy path, a sound of walking on shells in Skipback, Pennsylvania, the icy cold mint-flavored water served on a scorching hot day in Berks County. Maybe the handsome young man I remember demonstrating how to start seeds at a historic garden up in Kutztown. And I remember him better than how to start the seeds, actually. But I think that's cool that your memory is right next to scent. So this is a portrait of me that I love. So I'm using it just as a prompt here for the definition, what is an herb? It's one of the first things that come up. The broadest definition is the one I'll use, which is an herb is a useful plant. But you might be surprised that by this definition, it can include trees and shrubs, fungi, I guess, lichens, seaweed, and of course, annuals and perennials. They come from all cultures and all climates. So this portrait of me is when I was cutting the garden to put it to bed in the fall. And the plant is called false indigo. You can't see it in this picture, but false indigo has really cool pods in the fall. And I like to save them and use them for winter holiday flower arrangements. I spray them gold or silver, and that's kind of horrifying to a lot of Herb Society members because they tend to prefer a more natural displays, but I like silver and gold paint. And if I get too many negative comments about it, I get out the glitter, which I also I love glitter, and they hate glitter even more. So this is 5 reasons why you should grow herbs. That's enough about my interest in herbs. So the first one is health. And there are many studies that demonstrate that gardening is beneficial to your health. Your interest in growing herbs might have bloomed during the past 3 years of the pandemic with our shift to lifestyles. And I snagged this portrait of me. It's not really a portrait, selfie, I guess it is. But this is not from the past 3 years. This is from 6 years ago. I was diagnosed with uterine cancer. And the part I want to share about this is I was working by myself in the greenhouse where the Herb Society grows the plants that we sell at our sale. And I was not aware until I had chemotherapy that it's actually dangerous for patients to be exposed to molds, common molds, like what's in soil, and also just in the air. If you think about a strawberry, how it will get a little bit of mold, that is very dangerous to a cancer patient. But on the plus side, having a wonderful hobby that you can pursue even when you're sick, just to read a catalog, a seed catalog, or, you know, in general, gardening is just, it's very restorative, good for your health. So the second reason why you should grow herbs is, I think, legacy. And I want to talk about legacy for just a minute, and then I'll tell you about this cute photo. I'm very lucky that my father lived to be 90 years old, and as I pursued my interest in family history, it was great because he could I didn't have to do research, you know, he could fill in all the blanks on our family tree, well, to a certain point. But it was my objective to find the graves of my 8 great-grandparents, and everyone has 8 great-grandparents. And so that would be 4 on my father's side. And he told me about his 2 grandmothers, who are my great-grandmothers. One was named Bumi, and I didn't know her, but I've heard lots of stories about her. She wore polka dot dresses, and she was a flirt. And just knowing that she left stories behind is an inspiration to me, because his other grandmother, my father described as a dried up old lady. And I'm sure there was more to her than that. But I have to admit, I want to be more like Bumi. So anyway, this is a picture of 2 of my great nieces. One of them, Molly, is here, just back from college. Haven't seen her in a few months. But they're sitting at my kitchen counter, taste testing various herbal teas. And you know, when it comes to legacy, they might not remember this day as I will, but I do think they'll remember me and associate me with herb garden. So, the third reason why you should grow herbs is enrichment. I love this photo. It's ridiculous. As I've mentioned, having an interest in herb is enriching because it's so multi-dimensional, and it can include crafting and cooking, medicine, folklore. And this photo was taken at an arboretum in Philadelphia. So an interest in herb includes visiting new places. I asked the Herb Society members to pose like this for the photo, and some of them really didn't want to, but I bullied them into it. We don't normally frolic around trees like this, but really, seriously, having an interest in herb is enriching to your life. Number 4, get outside. Once a week or so during the growing season, the Herb Society members meet in 2 public gardens that we tend. This one is the 18th century medicinal herb garden in historic Yellow Springs in Chester Springs, Pennsylvania. Being outside, quietly working with the plants, discussing gardening related and other problems as they come up, and learning from each other is a major benefit of working with herbs. And frankly, sometimes we're too tired or it's too hot, and we still go and tend that lovely garden of herbs. It really is a wonderful thing to do, just to be outside and work with the plants. Learn. Okay, so number 5, the bottom line is learn, and you can spend a lifetime learning about plants. It never gets old. When you plant a garden, you're always learning the types of plants, the growing conditions, harvesting, using the plants. And the most important thing is to have some good resource materials. Of course, today we have everything at our fingertips. But I depend on this book that I brought along. It's called, this is not a commercial, feels like one all of a sudden, like QVC, but the Herb Society America New Encyclopedia of Herbs and Their Uses. And this book actually has pretty much every single thing you could need to know. In this photograph on the slide is a binder from an herbal study group of salvias. Now these are the ornamental salvias, not the sage that we eat. But we took a year-long study of salvias, and each of us grew a few, and we photographed them and said how they did in Pennsylvania and what color they were. And so it's kind of you could say it's a serious study. So I'm going to switch now to quick tips for successful herb gardens. I have a couple to share with you, and I'll run through them quickly. These are basic gardening guidelines specific to herb gardening. So successful herb gardens usually require a sunny site with well-drained soil. That's not to say that there aren't herbs that grow in the shade, but for the most part, they like sun. And nobody likes wet feet, and neither do most herbs. So preparing your garden beds is really one of the most important things you can do, because if you have no success and it's frustrated, you might abandon the whole project. And really, if you invest in preparing the soil, you'll really be more satisfied. So don't skip it. The last item on this list is sheltering backdrop. And you can see here, there's a white picket fence and then some very nicely pruned shrubbery there. This is in Colonial Williamsburg. Every year the Herb Society has a conference in a different city, and so that's an excuse to travel, and we get together and we always learn new things. So a nice stone wall, or you could cozy up your garden against your house, but they tend to like to be somewhat protected. Although there's a beautiful, beautiful herb garden at the National Arboretum in Washington, D.C., and I go there and work sometimes. And their herb beds are in the middle of, just out in the open. So if you don't have a place that's sheltered, don't let that be a constraint. Here are a few more. Successful herb gardens often feature a single focal point, or maybe just one focal point in each view. But this keeps your garden from looking junky or like a garden center, which can happen. And like when you compose a painting, you like to keep some blank areas. It's a place to rest your eye. And while it's not maybe true for every style of garden, like an English country garden, it's still a good principle. It's nice to have a place to rest the body, and but the irony is I put that chair there to take the picture because I never sit down. And but it makes looks nice. We really should sit and appreciate our garden. We have a new program in the Herb Society called Fuzzy Butts, and you're supposed to sit and count the bees on a particular day at a particular time, and they're collecting the data. So I could sit there for Fuzzy Butts. So herb garden themes, I hope I'm not wearing you out because this is my favorite part of this topic. So I'll pick up the pace and talk a little quicker. Choosing a theme for your herb garden is a great way for a beginner. It helps you narrow your focus in choosing your plants and creates kind of a framework to work within. A bonus is it makes your garden more memorable, so when you have visitors, they'll tend to remember your garden if it has a theme. Did you know you can make a whole garden of edible flowers? You can. I've done it. And that summer, I always brought a salad to any picnic I was invited to, or a potluck. You get a lot of attention if you bring a salad that is filled with beautiful flowers, and people are really amazed by it. Also, a pizza garden is a cool theme garden. I've grown one. You make a round circle with gravel and mark out the slices. And then you plant like garlic and basil, oregano, hot peppers. And kids love a garden, a pizza garden. It helps them understand that their food comes from the ground, you know. But my husband and I made a pizza garden at a local summer camp, and it was fun. The last bullet here is a tea garden. They are the most charming gardens you'll ever see, in my opinion. Herbal teas include like chamomile, lemon verbena, and peppermint. Some of them are used fresh and some of them are used dry, but what is easier than putting boiling water over a few leaves? And you can create a centerpiece like is in this garden photo. This has a dangling crystal hanging from the spout, but I've seen them with running water, a little miniature fountain. So if you love herb tea, I think you should consider a herbal tea garden. Then there are decorative themes like Times Square. You can do a garden all times, and I have seen one. They're beautiful. There's more times than you would imagine. I'll name a few: Elfin Time, Pink Chintz Time, Dune Valley, Silver. And then frequently, if there's a Times Square garden, there'll be a sundial as a centerpiece. It picks up what time is it, kind of pun. Shakespeare garden is an interesting garden. You can invite your book club. Plant it in a formal, symmetrical, maybe Elizabethan style garden. Because fennel is mentioned in Hamlet, marjoram in King Lear, parsley in Taming of the Shrew, wild thyme in A Midsummer Night's Dream. Or, like the Shakespeare garden, you could plant a Bible garden using herbs like rue, tansy, and wormwood. List of herbs that are mentioned in the Bible are actually very easy to find. So there's lots of inspiration for that, and it's very interesting and educational. Butterfly, like the picture here, children really get into this. You can plant herbs that tend to attract butterflies or are hosts for the caterpillars. It benefits you and the ecosystem in your neighborhood. Functional themes. See what I mean? I could just do this forever because I really love it. Everlastings is a theme that you can use for your garden. These are plants that dry well and hold their color. Some examples are feverfew, lavender, roses, and in the fall you can make wreaths. I saw this one in the photo in a catalog for $79. So you could start a business if you have an everlastings garden. Don't think I'm kidding you because I don't kid around about this. You could literally start a business. The second bullet is meditation, and I've seen lots of these, especially during some of the traumatic times we've had over the last few years. But it can be a beautiful, quiet place for prayer or meditation. Sometimes these gardens are organized in a scroll, so as you walk along the circle, it gives you time for contemplation. Moonlit is another garden that my husband and I planted. It features silver plants and white flowers, and it's a great garden to be enjoyed at night. When we had our moonlit garden, someone from the Reading Eagle came and did an article about us and took pictures, so that was our moment of fame. So I don't think I wrote anything about, but the last one here is dyes. If you're interested in fiber arts of any kind, either fabric or yarn, you can plant a whole garden of herbs that create dyes. And there's a lot to learn about it. You can really be very witchy about it, you know, big cauldrons of boiling. So the first several years that I grew herbs, I never used them for anything, really. I was just into learning about the plants and how to grow them. But I have just a few tips on really cool things you can do. So you can freeze awesome ice cubes, and the instructions are, this is a little tiny flower about that big. They taste like cucumber. But the instructions are, pick a borage flower, try not to faint because the color and the form are so beautiful. They're like stars. You rinse them and dry them on a paper towel. Fill an ice cube tray with water and put a single flower in each ice cube, and then freeze them and use them in lemonade. So, yeah, some of us like attention. I'll just leave it at that. So here's a lady that likes a lot of attention. I have make herb butter. Herb butter is a wonderful thing to do. And I know you can't capture this recipe, but there are lots of them online. But I did want to share that I had gone to an Herb Society conference in Austin, Texas. And this lady, Lucinda Hudson, was the speaker. She had the most colorful, crazy presentation. She had us all laughing, and then we toured her house and her garden, and that is like not enhanced picture. That's literally the way it looked. But I like to make herb butter toward the end of the growing season and then freeze it and get it out at Thanksgiving. So, yeah, just the simplest thing to do. Here's another one, make potato salad. It's ridiculous, it's so easy, but it tastes so great, and I'll read this very quickly. Because it's so simple. Boil a few potatoes, peel and cool them, then add onion and pickles. Dress it with mayonnaise and sour cream. Stir in a small amount of finely chopped lovage. That's the secret ingredient. And when people say it's the best potato salad they ever ate, you just smile. Just like that Cheshire cat. It's like, yeah, I know. It's awesome. That's why I made it. Now this is for the truly procrastinating people in the group, or people who have a dream but never do it. You should buy some Tulsi tea. And I took this content from the package. I grow Tulsi tea. It's the easiest thing on earth. But if you have never had it, this is a cool thing to do. It's stress relieving, soothing and relaxing, abundant in antioxidants, uplifts mood, and it's caffeine and gluten free. And at the bottom here, I said make a solemn pledge to grow Tulsi in the future, because there is a whole spiritual side that you could learn about. It's called holy basil, and in some cultures, this is grown in every household, and it's considered not magical. What's the word I'm looking for? Like tied to their religion. It's holy. That's easy. Now this is another ridiculously easy thing to do, and I have done this. You become known for this. You can create a bookmark from Cusumano. Cusumano is a very homely plant. You would never grow it other than this, I don't think, but it is known traditionally as a Bible leaf. And you just pick a few mature leaves, you press them in a book. Once they're dry, and not before, then you can mark your Bible. And they say that you can sniff it during long sermons to keep you awake. And it does have an interesting, I'm going to say camphor odor. I actually found an antique Bible. It was on the one side written in German, the other side written the translation in English, and it was marked with an old Cusumano leaf. I don't know, made my day for sure. Here's another easy thing, lemongrass. Many of us enjoy Asian cuisine. You just put lemongrass in a pot. You have to water it a lot. As a matter of fact, one of my friends was touring Asia, and she said they grow it in standing water, which that was a good thing to learn. So I water mine twice a day when I'm home. But then buy an Asian cookbook and harvest the lemongrass by pulling the stalks from the base. You can overwinter it in your garage or in your basement. It's perennial. I have just two more ideas to share with you. I'm sorry, but it's hard for me to stop. So, experiment with mint. So there are two ways to safely grow mint. One is put it in a place where it can grow wild. If you've ever grown mint, you know it invades and it pops up where maybe you didn't want it. The second idea is to plant it in a pot and then bury the pot in the ground. Sometimes it does escape, though, but it tends to control it. I'm bananas about a mint for some unknown reason. I've been known to dress as the mint goddess. I mean, something I would say I would never do, but I have done that. And, but I did want to tell you, because locally here, for people who are here in the room, at Countryside Farm and Greenhouse in Fleetwood, Pennsylvania, which is not too far, less than an hour, I think. They specialize in mint cultivars. And I took this list from their catalog. I won't read them all, but Asian mint, Georgian apple mint, banana mint, berries and cream mint, blue balsam, candy lime, chocolate. Have you ever had chocolate mint? It tastes just like a peppermint patty. And then curly, ginger, Korean, margarita, and it goes on and on. But that is, if you have the right area, you can grow a whole bed of mints. They tend to cross-pollinate. So after maybe 2 years, they start to share their flavor. But you can dig it up and start over. Here's an amazing recipe. Bake a flavorful potato. Wash an Idaho potato, cut it in half the long way, and lay a single fresh or dried bay leaf on one side and a little olive oil, salt and pepper on the other, and then put the two sides together and wrap it in foil and bake it as usual. And the essence of bay permeates the potato, and it'll make you famous. It's cool. It's a 2-ingredient recipe. So this is coming up on the end here. I did want to tell you that the Herb Society has a annual herb sale. This year it's May 11th, 2023, 10 a.m. to, actually we changed it to noon. We sold thousands of plants in 45 minutes last year. People lined up 2 hours ahead.
Excuse me, please mute yourself on Zoom. Somebody that's not muted. Thank you.
So you can come to our herb sale if you're off on Thursdays. Obviously, not everyone is. But I do want to encourage you to support local growers if you can. And small businesses are very important to our economy, and a lot of them are struggling. This herb sale of ours, this is our 84th year having this herb sale, so we're pretty good at it. But we're cocky now, you know. I want to tell you about this photo. This drying rack, it's a little bit of a complicated looking photo because of the gates. But my stepfather made this drying rack for me when I turned 21. So I've had it a long time. I use it every year. And here I'm drying peppers at the top and yarrow across the bottom. So on the left-hand side here, this is the URL for the local units website. I love this picture. This lady in the middle, she's always like that, just cracking up. She comes up, she used to be local here, and now she lives in South Carolina, and she comes up every year to help. And our local chapter, as I said, is called the Philadelphia Unit, and there is a national organization. There are about 2,200 members. So this is a picture of my Phoenixville garden. I hope I inspired you to undertake creating an herb garden. You could plan a garden using a theme, or jump right in and just pick up some plants. Start out small. You might do some garden-related travel first to whet your appetite. And regardless, I encourage you to dig in. It's an investment that will make you rich. That's it.
Oh, wow.
Thank you, Helen.
So, if anyone, I did bring a poster for the herb sale, if anyone wants to take a picture to capture the date and location. And I'll take questions if anything occurs to you.
We'll take questions first from people in the room, and then we'll go to Zoom. So anyone in the room?
Yeah,
What does lovage taste like?
celery. It's very similar to celery.
So that's why it would be good if it is.
Yes, and it has a hollow stem, and people grow it specifically for Virgin Marys, not Virgin Mary.
Bloody Mary.
Bloody Mary, yeah, or Virgin Mary, yeah. Because you can use that as a straw.
Oh, wow.
Stick with me, I know what to do. Anybody else can think of anything? Oh, yeah.
Is Tulsi an herb or is it a type of basil?
It is a type of basil. It's a basilica, something, yeah. It is, it's a kind of basil. At the herb sale, we grow, I'm gonna say 20 or maybe 30 different kinds of basils. There's purple, Thai, and Tulsi is one of them. Somewhere locally, I think it's in East Coventry, there's a Tulsi farm.
What?
It's not open to the public, but, yeah. Anyone else? I know it's exhausting talking to you.
Okay, anybody on Zoom, feel free to type into the chat or unmute yourself.
Go back and put that back up. Okay, well, thanks everybody for coming out. I hope I inspired you.
Thank you, Helen.